What's up, everyone? It's Jeremy Majors here with Majors Academy Dog Training out of Green Bay, Wisconsin. And we are live, episode 138. And we are live here once again to answer all your questions. Anything that has to do with dog behavior. Feel free to ask as many questions as you like. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. You can find me on Instagram as Jeremy the Dog Psychologist, and on Facebook and YouTube as Majors Academy Dog Training. We are here every week, once a week. I tend to do some videos that are not the Q&A, but just like demonstration videos. And I post a lot of those videos on YouTube. So we'll wait a few minutes while people jump on. I think it's going to be warm enough for us to do a pack walk. So anybody who's watching who can come out, please come out. It's going to be at 8 o'clock. It's not going to be at 9 o'clock. So remember that. All right, let's get started. First question comes from Jody. Hey, Jeremy, Sonny's doing great. Getting big for sure. So one of the things I'd like advice on is when he goes outside to use the bathroom. A lot of the time he gets distracted by things in our yard. Sometimes when he lets us know, sometimes when he lets us know he needs to go out, all he does is sniff around the yard looking for things to chew on. Leaves, rabbit poo, chunk of bark, even dirt sometimes. How do we get him to stay focused, do his business, and come back inside? Thanks for any advice. Okay, Jody, what you're telling me is that you're just letting him out too much. So one thing that I do to make sure dogs go to the bathroom right away is I have them out when I want them out. And I just kind of learn their digestive system so that I can kind of time it to where they need to go. And so when I let them out, they go pee and poop within 3 to 5 minutes. And so you'll just have to let him out less, not every time he wants to go out. He can hold it for a good amount of time. He did here. So don't let every attempt to go outside think that he needs to go pee and poop right away, because he doesn't. He's telling you that, he just wants to go out and play. So just let him, scratch at the door or whatever. You don't have to let him out. All right. Thanks for your question. All right, next question from Ashley. This is Sully. I've asked a few questions about him and his training, and I've loved all your responses. He's a 1.5-year-old intact, wondering how much neutering would help with training in the long run. My goal is to have him be a safe dog. Love your stream. Keep up the good work. I appreciate that, Ashley. Okay, so if he's 1.5 years old and you want to neuter him, it depends on, I would say it depends on what behaviors he is showing. At this point, it may not do much. I've seen dogs definitely calm down from neutering, but I've seen dogs that stay the same. So, if he's marking a lot, that may change. If he's humping a lot, that may change. If he is trying to break out of the fence because there's a female in heat, that may change as well. So I don't know. It just depends on what behaviors you're trying to improve. Doing e-collar work, recall practice in the pick. He loves it. That's awesome. He looks great. Okay. When will you have your clothing line out? Um when I have time, I don't know. I don't have any extra time. I have my little boy and I have everything else to do around the house, and it's just hard to do any of that. Hard to get anything done that's extra. So, hopefully soon. All right, next question. Any tips for transitioning from prong to slip lead? Yeah, my tip would be to stay with the prong long enough to where um, the dog doesn't pull to slip lead. And so sometimes that takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of consistency. It may take 6 months, you know, it depends on the dog too. Sometimes the dog will be all right with just a regular collar. But at the end of 3 weeks, when the dogs are trained here, at the end of 3 weeks, I can take them out on their regular collar and they won't pull. So you could do 3 weeks of intense training like I do with the prong collar, and it would be done by then. But yeah. Heck, 6 months you should be able to walk the dog off leash. All right. Thanks for your question. All right, moving along. We've had difficulties telling people we don't want our dog playing with their dog. This typically happens when the other dog is extremely dominant and we're comfortable, and the other aren't willing to intervene. Any tips? What personality types of dogs do you let your dogs interact with? I let my dogs interact with dogs who are calm. Um, I let my dogs interact with dogs who are social. I think that's the most important. Social dogs just aren't dogs that won't attack. Social dogs are dogs that sort of can have I would say, a polite conversation. And that just means knowing when to back off. If another dog is uncomfortable, that's being social, and not overwhelming uh, the new dog with dominance and not fleeing too. So a social dog knows how to just have a conversation. Antisocial dog doesn't. They're fighting or they're running. So I let my dogs interact with social dogs. How do you break a dog jumping on counters? You'll have to give that dog a consequence so that the dog thinks that or thinks twice about doing so. It's like the time the toddler touches the stove or the oven. He only does it once because now something's associated that makes the child think twice about doing so. So you'll have to give the dog a consequence that that will make the dog say, I don't want that to happen again. And that consequence will depend on the sensitivity of the dog. All right. All right, guys. Those of you who just joined in, dog behavior Q&A. Pretty simple. Ask as many questions as you like. We are here until we run out of questions. And get some professional advice. Excuse me. You could also just keep the dog out of the kitchen. That'd be nice. Sometimes that's easier said than done. Obviously, all of it's easier said than done, but keeping the dog out of the kitchen is a sort of a back end way to solve that problem. All right. Next question, guys. What's your potential opinion on foster dogs meeting potential adopters, existing resident dog? Adopters want to make sure their dog will get along with their existing dog before adopting. And I get it. I want to make sure the same thing if I was on their end. How should this be handled? Yeah, I think that's an excellent idea. I mean, if you are obviously the experienced one with dogs, you'd be able to give them some tips, make sure that transition is smooth. So basically, what you're saying is if adopters want to get another dog, they want to bring in their own other dog and see how them two get along. And that's a great idea. I think that obviously they don't want to bring home a dog that hasn't met their resident dog and then end up, them two not seeing eye to eye. So I think that's a good idea. All right. Pam says, would you take a dog you don't to the dog park? Yeah, probably, yeah. I mean, they have been known to stop fights, so yeah, that'll do it. I would at least bring it so that you have it. Dog parks are hit or miss. I think I should say this, and I know many people who are watching are probably have heard it from me many times, but I think I should still say it. Dog parks are hit or miss. I just trained a dog who got attacked twice at the dog park and hates dogs now. I was training the dog to become more social because it became antisocial after being attacked at the dog park 2 times. So, does every dog park have dog fights? No. Does it happen every time? No. But it does happen. You have owners who don't know what they're doing. There aren't any social uh, there aren't any rules. Anyone can bring their dog, social or not, and so you're taking a risk. And if your dog does get attacked, then you could potentially make a fearful aggressive dog. So you're taking a huge risk. Well, yeah. If you want socialization, you could go to a dog daycare. That's a little bit better. Still, dogs get attacked at dog daycares too, man. Dogs fight everywhere. It's just minimizing the risk if you can. But dogs fight. That's what they do. It sucks. Sucks to deal with and sucks to break up. People get hurt. All right, next question. Would my dog recognize his sister after 3 years of not seeing her? Do they remember after all that time? I mean, I don't know. Um, I did have one time where my dog daycare fostered two dogs, and they were brother and sister, and then they got adopted out separate, and then we brought them back together. I don't think it was 3 years, but it was after a long period of time, and they got together, and I mean, they just balled out. It was they had a lot of fun just playing. So maybe that'd be a good that'd be uh that'd be good to find out if it was actually something that was, you know, something good. Sometimes siblings hate each other and will fight and will fight and will fight. There's that sibling rivalry when it comes to dogs too. I'm training two siblings right now. Um, the family sent one dog, and I've already sent that dog away, or back, and then the family sent the other dog, and so I'm training them one at a time, and then I'm going to bring them back together at the end of the 3 weeks. So I give owners options based on the space that I have available. Sometimes they'll send both at the same time, or sometimes they'll send one, and then right after the first one's done, they'll send the other. So they have that option. That's kind of cool because they can get accustomed to that one dog first, or you know what I mean? One dog, and then bring in the next dog, kind of knowing what to do with the first dog that they brought in. Okay. All right. Next question. How do you approach a situation where the dog is fearful or timid around men? Some are strangers and some are men he knows. So when the dog is fearful around men, you want to check to see how clingy the dog is with the female, or the sometimes if a dog is clingy or codependent of one person, then it is less likely to be open to other people, especially ones who are physically seem visibly physically bigger. Doesn't matter that they're men. It just matters that the men that the dog is seeing are bigger than most women that the dog sees. So it's not a gender issue, it's a size issue. And size matters when it comes to dogs, because be willing to bet that the dog isn't scared of squirrels, but would be scared of bears, no matter if the bear was a male or female. So, codependency definitely keeps dogs fearful and antisocial and willing to be open to uh, being open to strangers. Their attention is already being consumed by one person. So I would evaluate that. All right. And then one way to work on their independence is to push them when men are around, and not pet them when they are in that fearful state of mind. You kind of got to like push them out of the door, sort of deal. It's like, deal with this situation you might want to go up to them because they'll pet you and make you feel good, just like I do. All right, does that make sense? Thank you for your question, and feel free to ask another if that's off. If I
That's kind of cool because they can get
volume off. Thank you. All right, let's move on. Okay. How do you correct separation anxiety, specifically when you leave the house and the dog breaks out of the crate? We have a 1.5-year-old beagle who breaks out of the crate as soon as we leave the house every time. All right, so separation anxiety. How, before I get into that, how do we schedule a tune-up for Vigo? Just message me, call me, text me, and we'll get it done. All right. All right, separation anxiety. So back to separation anxiety. First things first is you have to teach the dog how to behave in the crate. Sometimes we reinforce what ends up becoming separation anxiety. Okay, so separation anxiety does have to do with their state of mind. In the crate, the dog should be calm. And you can get that calm behavior by helping the dog understand that it must do certain things while in the crate, or it must do certain things in the crate before it comes out of the crate. And the easiest thing is to get the dog to, or tell the dog to sit or down before you let the dog out of the crate. If you are letting the dog just burst out of the crate, then you are feeding into his separation anxiety. If you are allowing the dog to bark in the crate, then you are feeding into their separation anxiety. If the mindset of the whiny dog, the barking dog, the scratching dog, the hyper dog, if any of that gets the dog out of the crate, then you are playing into their separation anxiety. Okay. But if you can reverse that, if you can teach the dog that calm behavior will get you out of the crate and outside and my attention, all of the things the dog wants, right? The dog wants your attention. The dog wants to be outside, and the dog wants to maybe just get the hell out of the crate. If you can teach the dog to be calm to get that, then you have a quiet, laying down dog that you're going to interact with. And imagine that. Coming into the house, not hearing your dogs. Imagine that. That's nice. Takes a little bit of convincing for that to happen, though. The dog has to be convinced that its pushy behavior may get them something they don't like, and especially something they don't want. So you have to, that's what you have to do. Everyone in the house has to do the same thing too. So spend time with the dog in the crate and in your home so that you can address those behaviors. All right, that's enough for now. I can take this whole hour to talk about separation anxiety step by step, but We don't have enough time. Okay. Next question. Is there a way to break a dog being scared of people and other dogs? Or it's just her protective breed? Yes and yes, I would say. Yes, you can help a dog be less scared. And yes, it could have to do with their genetics. But genetics aren't everything. So you can help the dog be less fearful, though. Protective breeds are just assertive when they're fearful. That's how they deal with their fear. But they also are intelligent enough to listen when you say no, and or when you say quiet, they should stop barking. So that's how you can get your dog to accept strangers, people, and or other dogs. Your ability to get the dog to be calm on command is going to be key. Because if you can get your dog to be calm on command, then your dog trusts you enough to not allow what the dog perceives as a dangerous situation to actually be a dangerous situation. And with dogs, it's tough because you don't know the other dogs. So you don't know if the dog could be social or not. Or if you do know the dogs and your dog is still being scared of that dog, then again, it's still up to you and your ability to get your dog to listen to you in that environment. That's going to be key on getting your dog to be open to becoming curious about other dogs. But it all starts with if your dog actually listens to you when it's the most convenient for your dog, for you and your dog, to just not have any boundaries, which is the house, which is a good point for everyone. I have this little saying that the harder you are on your dog when in the house, the easier the world is to deal with. And then the opposite is the easier you are on your dog in the house, the harder the world is to deal with. And so you can solve all problems, well, with exercise, but helping the dog listen a lot better in the house when it's, again, most convenient for you guys, for the dog to just do what it wants and when it wants. Dog's on the couch, dog's in your bed, dog's barking its head off in the window, dog gets to follow you around the house, dog gets to counter surf, beg for food, all that stuff. It's really easy not to be tough on your dog in those circumstances because, well, no one's watching. But those are the times when you need to be consistent. Your dog is going to say, she lets me do what I want in the house. I'm definitely going to do what I want outside the house. Why are you trying to make me listen now? Why are you trying to make me listen at the vet's office? Why are you trying to make me listen on the walk? You don't make me listen in the house. So why do I need to listen now? So being tough in the house when it's very easy to not be tough. And I'm not saying tough in any sort of physical way. I'm just saying be consistent with what you want, because it's real easy to stay on the couch and let your dog just do what it wants. All right. Okay. Next question. All right. I know Chris asked you about how to give dogs treats, without them almost biting your hand off. Can you reiterate what's the best way to do that? Yes. And I'm actually, that's a good reminder. I want to make that video for you guys too. But first of all, okay, so this is a good question because there could be a lot of people who could benefit from this. So the question is, how do you get a dog to not try and bite your hand off when you have a treat in your hand? How do you make them more soft, right? Or how do you just make them not bite so hard? And it may take some time. It may take some, I would say maybe 5 consistent times of doing this, but I tend to hold the treat in my fist like this and then let the dog, and then I put my fist down by my side, and the dog usually will assume that it can have it because that's what we do. And then as soon as the dog touches my hand, I tell the dog no, and the dog usually does that. No. And then it may try it again, and you repeat. No, like that, until the dog stops and sits and looks at you. And then you turn your hand and you do this so that the dog then kind of bites this, and it can't. Don't give the treat like this. I'll give it like this. So you have it here in your hand. Dog comes and bites it. Tell them no as soon as you do it. They sit back. And then once they sit back, then you can open your hand. And from there, doing that over and over again, they'll stop going for your hand. They'll stop assuming they can go for your hand as soon as you put your hand down for that treat. All right. The timing of the no is very important, and giving them time to sort of figure out a different way of getting what they want is key. Same thing. It's kind of like the same principle of barking to be let out versus dog laying down calm to be let out. So dog, that's an assuming behavior. As soon as you put that hand down, the dog goes for your hand. That's an assuming behavior. And so the dog shouldn't assume, and it's intelligent enough to do something different. I mean, dogs will do a lot of different stuff for something it wants, and you just have to mark the right behavior. But we often mark the wrong behavior because we are underestimating their intelligence and aren't aware of their level of intelligence, and or just don't have time to put in the time. So that's it. I will make a video of that because it's really going to be like a 2-minute video, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So definitely going to do that. All right. You're very welcome. Okay, let's see what else we got. So, okay, I want to talk a little bit about this. The last group I had. I called the group of head cases. And I want to make sure you guys know that, again, trust is more important than friendship for a lot of these dogs that I train. They're too young to be just their friend. Okay, you guys have got to earn the trust that is necessary to help the dog get over certain fears, anxieties, and ultimately making their life better and your life more convenient. So they've got to trust you enough to take your word for it. That's it. When you say something, they should do it for their benefit and the benefit of others. If your dog has problems with humans or fearful. And so Here's how you can do something very simple. Any fears that the dog has that it shouldn't have, you should push your dog through those fears somehow, some way. It will get the dog to say, maybe I should listen to them because they showed me that something I was fearful of, I don't have to be fearful of. And it can be something as simple as walking up the stairs. Some dogs don't like walking up and down the stairs. That's a challenge. Some dogs don't like to walk on linoleum floors or certain tiles. That's a challenge. Some dogs don't like crates. That's a challenge. Some dogs don't like grocery bags. In specific, I had this Shiba Inu that didn't like Cheetos, a Cheeto bag. And anyway, some dogs don't like to be walked on leash. I think I had a question about that. So basically, I have a dog who's doing that now, but some dogs tend to like stop walking when you're trying to walk them. First of all, if you're walking with a harness, stop walking with a harness. Otherwise, you will just be dragging a body, and that'll make you look bad. You don't want that. But the dog has got to deal with, bottom line, dog has got to deal with being uncomfortable from you in order to reach comfort again. So you have to teach the dog that walking with you, which is what you want, and what the dog is going to benefit from, is comfortable. And then that dragging thing is not comfortable. So pull the dog until the dog decides to walk with you. That's the easiest way. Yep. The tools you use is important. Harness isn't going to do it. Some dogs are just going to be okay laying down on their side and being dragged. Flat collar, probably not. Best tool to use is the prong collar for that. Because again, the dog will say, I don't want to deal with this anymore. I should listen. And I don't really care how that sounds. It's just the truth. It's the easiest way. Some dogs are incredibly stubborn. Some dogs are incredibly stubborn and they don't want to get what they want. I mean, they don't want to do what they don't want to do and will throw tantrums. I mean, I'm sure people look at me on the side of the road like, what in the is he doing? Because dogs do that gator roll. They'll jump up at the leash. They'll bite the leash. They'll try and bite me. They'll pee and poop themselves. I mean, they'll try anything to get me to stop, but they only try it once. And after that, they know that their best effort is not even worth the effort. They know that their best attempt is just not worth going through because I don't take no for an answer. Some people aren't equipped to deal with that. That's no fault of theirs. It's just that's why there are professionals. All right, my shepherd is reactive / aggressive to other dogs when on leash. He is immediately a different dog off leash. How can I work on this? Never to people, only dogs. So I'd say keep dogs away from your dog. Never meet dogs on leash. So that's the first thing. Never meet dog on leash. And then give your dog a job to do, which would be to heel by you, loose leash the entire time. No sniffing, no peeing, no pooping. That the dog can do that in your backyard. You will have to gain trust. The dog will have to trust you on leash. because you are taking the dog's ability away to go away. So, because clearly when the dog's off leash, it says, when I'm uncomfortable, I'll just walk away, no problem, when I see another dog. Or I'm confident enough that I can handle the situation because I'm off leash. And so you just have to um, help your dog trust you. And the heel is important, along with keeping dogs the hell away from you, especially off leash dogs. Hell, I mean, if you can't control the off leash dogs, you might be better off just unleashing your dog and just continue to walk. I mean, I don't know. But I send every dog home with a doggy don't. That's a tool. You can Google it if you don't know what that is. Doggy don't. Carry that with you while you walk, and that will deter off-leash dogs from coming up to your dog. When your dog's on leash, it is an intimate thing. Again, you're taking their ability away to handle conflict the way that we would want them to handle conflict when they get uncomfortable, which is to walk away. We're taking that ability away, and so the only way to handle dealing with that uncomfortable situation for some dogs, especially the shepherd, is to act out, react aggressively. It works for them. So number one, gain the dog's trust on the walk. Number two, keep off-leash dogs or on-leash dogs the hell away from your dog when your dog's on leash. All right. Thank you for your question. Feel free to ask another. Let's see what else we got. Oh, I'm live on Instagram too. Forgot about that. All right, I think that's all the questions I have. Yep. All right, you guys. I appreciate for all of your questions. Please give me a like or a thumbs up or whatever you're gonna do. Where we will be here next Thursday at 8 p.m. Same thing. And so I appreciate all of you guys' questions. They will help out. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Oh, those of you who are past clients, please come to the pack walk. It's going to be at 8 o'clock instead of 9 o'clock. Hope to see you guys there. All right. See you guys. Bye-bye.